I saw your comment on the XX Combinator discussion on Fred Wilson's blog of VC. How do you feel about incubators like Y Combinator and the proposed XX Combinator that would cater to men and women who are unable to uproot themselves for Y Combinator? Do you feel that participating in these sorts of incubators can contribute to success for female startups?
I'm not a big believer in that kind of thing.
Okay.
I think you have to groom women to have the skills,
right?
And then you have to help them get the ideas and the audiences. But I think half the venture community would back women given the right ideas and the right operational background.
And so your belief really is more that the incubation needs to happen on the job rather than in these extraneous situations.
I believe it needs to happen on the job. The way you learn what to do and what not to do is to do it.
Yeah.
You yourself know that.
Yeah,
right?
I do.
You just got to do it. And you got to do it in companies, and you got to do it on your own dime, and that's how we learn.
It is, yeah.
I remain unconvinced. I hope they succeed, but I remain unconvinced.
Yes, I'm pretty much aligned with what you're saying. Thank you. You also stated in your comment, which I really was very impressed by, you said, I was a lucky one, exposed to the VC world early as a rare female tech exec, and so able to bring a track record to the game. But even then, my backers have been VCs who already knew me from before. I have been in countless hundreds of meetings with VCs and now know within 10 minutes whether I'll get to a second conversation or not. Could you give some feedback about what measures you use to tell if you will get a second conversation with a VC? I want the secret.
So I would say that I got funded each time by people who were familiar with my track record, even if they weren't very familiar with me as an individual. They didn't take very long to figure out my track record and to talk to some of the people that knew me and figure out that I could walk and chew gum at the same time.
Right.
Now when I meet venture capitalists, if they engage in, I don't use PowerPoint, by the way, starting point, don't use PowerPoint, and I sort of engage in a discussion of the idea, the business, my background, why I believe I want to do whatever it is I'm trying to pitch, and sometimes I'm pitching to raise money, sometimes I'm pitching on behalf of a friend or for a non-profit or whatever. If I can get them to engage with me and my ideas and my personality and my experience set, I have a good shot at a second meeting and at getting them to at least, really consider my idea. If they don't engage with me, if there's no connection, it's a sort of distant thing, it's more of a judgmental discussion, not in a negative way, just there's distance and judgment, I'm not going to get to a second meeting, because if the person I'm pitching doesn't get me, they're not going to fund me because I'm not the right profile.
So are there practical or pragmatic signs that you would be able to share with us that you read? Because I can hear that there's a subtle thing that's going on where you partake of that judgment. Is there practical signs?
Yeah, it's all the things about whether somebody is... It's the connection things. It's the things you understand better than I do, right? Are they really looking at you? Are they laughing at your jokes? Right? That's a classic trigger for me.
Yeah.
Do they laugh at my jokes? Do they ask intelligent questions? Do they challenge my assumptions? Do they really engage kind of in a discussion around substance? Or do they just flip to the spreadsheets and go, well, I think your pricing model's wrong, or there's 5 other people doing the same thing, what's your differentiation? And it's a sort of a more disconnected discussion. But if they go, well, did you ever talk to so-and-so, and they had this idea, how do your idea relate to that idea? And then you respond, and then they trigger off the response. If they're really engaged with you, then they're trying to analyze your idea.
Thank you so much.
If they're not, don't waste your time. Say thank you very much and leave.
Brilliant. They're great points. Thank you. Would you like to see changes in the venture capital community that could support women startups? And if so, what would those changes look like?
So I think we're about to go through a really difficult period in the venture capital community because the 10-year look back is now bad. And so venture capital as an industry may have a 70-80% drop in funding over the next 5 years. That in itself is going to make it very, very much more competitive for any entrepreneur to get funded. And I think it's also going to make, apart from the top firms, top 5 or 10 firms, it's going to make it harder to get unconventional ideas funded. I think there's a lot of lemming behavior in venture capital. I mean, I'm a venture capital snob. I think there are 5 or 10 firms worth spending your time with and the rest aren't worth spending your time with. So, and they will get money, but they're going to be able to be very discriminating about who they invest in. So my best advice would be you need a great idea. You need something that you're very, very passionate about, that you have a conviction you can make money with, even if you're not quite sure exactly what the business model is going to be. You have a conviction, a really powerful conviction. And then you need to have enough operating experience to be able to execute it, because the days of $150 and $200 million financings are gone.
Okay, so we could summarize that to be selective about the venture capital community that you approach.
Well, you want to get practice. So you want to do the pyramid of VCs and practice your story on the ones that you don't believe are going to fund your idea, and get it really, really well honed and do it in a short period of time. So I'm a big believer that you want to take a month and do 50 meetings in a month, and start with the ones, the small ones, the ones that are less likely to fund you, and get it really good before you go to those top 10.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great advice. GigaOM recently posted an article, "Is There a Female Funding Model?" by Stacey Higginbotham, who quoted, "Wondering if there's a better model for funding female companies, or if women tend to form companies that are better suited for raising debt as opposed to venture capital. Or is the trend simply a result of venture investors being blind to female entrepreneurs, and then those spurned entrepreneurs doing what they do best, finding an alternative when a roadblock pops up?" How do you feel about this question? Do we need a different funding model as women?
I don't think so. Most ventures are not the young white guy in a garage. Most ventures are people in their late 30s and their 40s who've got operating experience, who have an idea that they passionately want to pursue. That's the unspoken secret of Silicon Valley. There aren't very many women in technology with middle management operating experience. We have to get women into the funnel in order to have them come out the other side as entrepreneurs. And yes, there will be some 20-something white guys in a garage, and hopefully some 20-something Chinese girls in a garage who figure out the next Facebook. But the statistics, the vast majority, are people with 10, 15 years of experience, and there aren't enough women in the pool. That, I think, is the number one issue.
Okay. Thank you so much, Penny. I've really learned a lot from this interview. I really appreciate your being involved in this project.
You're most welcome.